welcome to Marley Bird YouTube channel. You can find everything crochet right here on this channel, including stitches and techniques, and today it's a project. We're going to learn how to make the Sous Chef. The Sous Chef is a hat project that I've designed. It's a great project for young and old. I know for a fact that it's a wonderful project to donate to cancer patients. There is a wonderful organization called Halos of Hope that gets very excited every time they see a Sous Chef hat come in through the mail, and when they send it off to cancer facilities and they're given out to people who are going through chemotherapy, they're always very excited to get this hat. So if you're one of those people that really enjoys making stuff for charity, this is a great project for you. If you're still one of those people that enjoys making stuff for charities, but you want to make stuff for yourself as well, or maybe for the holiday season, this is a great hat. You can whip this out in about 3 hours, 4 hours, and give it away to everybody in your family, and everybody's going to love you so much. They're going to want you to draw their name at Christmas, right? I'm going to tell you what you need first for this project, and let's look down here. First of all, you're going to have to get the Sous Chef pattern, and it's available at marleybird.com. The pattern includes all the abbreviations for the instructions that you may need, the specific numbers, and the yarn suggestion that I used in the hat. Today, we are going to use Red Heart with Love yarn, and we're going to combine that with Red Heart's Boutique Treasures. One is a solid and one is obviously a variegated, but it's a long color changing variegated. So it's going to look like we're doing a whole lot of work in the hat when we really aren't. It's going to look really cool. So by combining these two colors, we can get a really great effect. This is a good technique to learn that you can apply to other projects as well. You're going to need a crochet hook. The crochet hook I used for this particular project, I think, is a G, it might be an H. Today we're going to use a 6mm. All you need to do is use a crochet hook that helps you get the correct gauge or the correct measurement of the hat you want to make. I'll help you along with that. It's really convenient. The way I have done the construction of the hat allows you to do a lot of customization. And we're going to use stitch markers, a tapestry needle, and a pair of scissors. So why don't you gather your tools and join me back here and we'll get started. Okay, so you have your materials. Let's get started. With the Sous Chef hat, this hat is actually made brim first. So if I unfold the brim, you can see that the brim is made flat, and then we're going to pick up stitches and we're going to work in the round all the way up until we get to the crown, where the crown is where we begin to decrease down in stitches and pull it together up here at the top. So the very first thing we want to do is begin down here with the brim. Go ahead and pull out your pattern, and we're going to begin on page 2. On page 2, you'll see the set number of stitches you need to begin with to cast on. We are going to use 12 stitches today, so we're going to cast on 14. So I'm beginning with a slip knot. I'm choosing to use my With Love yarn first. So I'm going to chain 14, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, okay? I want to do a half double crochet in the second chain from hook. So I'm going to yarn over my hook, go into the stitch, go around my hook, pull up a loop, yarn over, and draw through all the pieces on the hook. Now my initial 2 stitches that I skipped back here, they are not going to count as a stitch, meaning I want to put my marker in the top of that half double crochet I just completed. Man, I seem to be getting tongue-tied a little bit. This half double crochet is throwing me off. I'm going to go into the next stitch over, and I'm going to do a half double crochet there as well. I'm going to do that all the way down the row, okay? Again, make sure for you, if you're using this technique or this project to make yourself a hat, make sure you follow along and use the numbers that are in the pattern. Don't use the numbers that I'm going to be showing on the video. They're purely there for demonstration. All right, so I'm getting all the way down to the end, and I'm going to finish up my half double crochets. And in my last half double crochet, I want to change colors. If you need a refresher on how to change colors or a more specific instructions, you can always go to the Changing Colors video here on the channel, but I'll show you how to do this right now. I have yarned over, went into the stitch, and pulled up a loop. So I have 3 loops on my hook. If I wanted to complete my half double crochet right now without changing colors, I would yarn over and draw through all those loops on the hook. But because I want to change colors, I'm actually going to grab my new color. I'm going to hold the tail with the tail of the ending of my yarn that's in play already. And I'm going to wrap my hook with the new color. And I'm going to pull through, okay? What's different with this versus the other times in the videos that you've seen me change colors, before I've always cut my old colors yarn to create a tail, and this one I am not. I'm going to actually show you how to carry the yarn up the side, because when we pick up stitches in the brim right here, our tail is actually going to be hidden along the side. So I'll show you how that works. So I'm right here, and because I want to build on double or half double crochets on the way back, I'm going to chain 2. I'm going to turn, and that chain 2 does not count as a stitch. I'm going to yarn over, and I'm going to work in the back loop only. Working in the back loop only means in this V at the top of the stitch, I'm going to put my hook into the back loop and complete my half double crochet right there. So the half double crochet, nothing changes with it. I'm just going to make sure I'm only working in the back loop the whole way down. Only the back loop. If you need instructions on how to do back loop, if you want something more than just this, please go check out the refresher course I did in the beginner basics in back loop only, and you can give yourself a little quick tutorial on how to do back loop only. I'm going to undo my yarn here a little bit. It's sneaking up on me. I'm just going all the way down the row, you guys, doing back loop only. Yarning over, draw through 3. Insert, yarn over, draw through 3. What's fun about this project, if you use a fun yarn like this Boutique's treasure yarn coupled with the solid yarn, you get so many exciting colors, and it's really soft yarn. The Boutique's, I mean, it's just incredibly soft, and the color selection is just amazing. When I get to the end here, when I come to the last stitch that I'm going to work into, make sure you do only work into the back loop. You don't want to work into both, okay? So I'm there. I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to chain 2 and turn. I'm going to work in the back loop only again when I turn. Every row is going to be back loop only. I'm going to move up my marker so that way I know this is where I want to go. When I get down to that end again. Does that make sense? There it is. And I'm going to come right on back. Now I'm going to get down to the end of this row. I know you're like, okay, Marley, I know how to do a half double crochet, but I want to show you how to pull up your old color along the sides. Because when you pull up your old color to use it again, you want to make sure that you're not pulling it so taut that it creates a pucker. Puckering is bad in your crochet. We want to make sure it's a nice and smooth pull up so that the join is nice and smooth. And it's going to be important to do that with both colors whenever you're pulling them up along the side. And what's convenient is because we're using even number rows, you know, we're just doing 2 rows of one color. When we get down here to the end, our yarn is down here waiting for us. So we don't even have to think about it really when it's like, have I done 1 row? Have I done 2 rows? If you're not back down to where your old yarn is waiting for you, then you have 1 more row to go, okay? Unless you've done 1 too many rows and then you have to rip out a row. Here we are. I had done the last one and I went ahead and pulled it out so I could show you how to do the color change. I yarn over, go into the back loop only, yarn over, pull up a loop just like before, only now I'm going to drop the color I'm using, pick up my old color, it's hanging out down there from below, and I pull it up and yarn over and pull through. Okay? When I do that, my float, that's what that's called, when it floats up the side, I want to make sure that if my piece were to lay flat, it does not pucker up. If I made the mistake of pulling it real tight, see how that puckers? We do not want that. That is bad, 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 bad. Nobody likes their work to pucker up. So here I am. I'm at where I have my yarn over. I've pulled up a loop. I'm going to yarn over my new color, make sure everything's nice and flat, and pull through. Okay? And then I would carry on with my chain 2 and work all the way back, working through the back loop only. Now you'll notice I have not been adding any of my chain stitch or my stitch markers on this side just because I forgot to add them in, but you absolutely can if you want to add your stitch marker to this side to make sure that you are at the beginning and the end of the row as you need it to be. Let's get some of these strings out of the way. You can absolutely do that. Go ahead and finish this, going back and forth until you reach the length that the pattern states for you, and then join me back here and I'll show you how to join this in the round so that we can start working in the rounds. All right, here I am. I've made a length of the brim and I'm finishing up going down one edge with my orange color. Now typically I would go back one more to finish it, but for the pattern it states that it wants you to finish with one row, and the reason is when I fold this together, see how I began with the orange and I end with the orange, so I get my two there. Can you see? So I'm beginning with half of one and I'm going to end with half of one. I'm going to come down here, I'm going to go ahead and finish it off. I'm going to yarn over, pull through to finish it off. Use my scissors to trim, leaving at least a 4 to 6 inch tail. I can weave that in later. Now, I want to turn my work, and working along the edge where all of my floats are, I am going to begin to add stitches. But I want to make sure I add stitches evenly, so there's two ways I can do it. One, I can make sure that I add the correct number of stitches on each row, whatever the pattern states. So say it said 2 stitches for every row, I'd make sure I add 2 stitches for every row. But if it didn't give you a row count, okay, this is for future reference. If it didn't give you a row count or how many stitches you want for each row, it just says evenly add 50 stitches, whatever a pattern may say. Here's a little tip, okay? If you take your brim, or whatever your piece is you're going to be adding stitches to, and fold it in half. Take your marker, put it roughly in the midway point, okay? Now take a half and fold that half in half. See that so far? And I'm going to put a midway point there. And then I'm going to do the same for this side. So I turn my half in half. I'm going to put a marker in. Now, as I open it up, I now have sections. So I have 4 sections. So I could take whatever number I'm supposed to pick up, divide it by 4, and make sure I put, exactly that number right here, that number right here, that number right here, and that number right here. And that is a great way to make sure that you have evenly spread out your number of stitches that you need to add on, okay? So we're going to say that we want to add 2 into each section. That's what we're going to do for our purposes right now. For you, if you're following along and making the Sous Chef hat, take a look at the pattern and see how many stitches you are supposed to work into each row and how you're supposed to do it. For this example, we're going to show how to join this yarn with a slip stitch. Now, we have to join with a slip stitch because 1, this was our beginner row, and 2, when we ended on the wrong side. We were not, or the wrong side of as it pertains to the side we need to be on. We want to be on the side with the loops, and so that's just the nature of the beast. It's the way it happens. So I'm going to take my hook and I'm going to go right into the outermost edge of that first row that I did, okay? So this would be working essentially into my first chain stitch. And I'm going to join with a slip stitch. So I pull out a loop, yarn over and pull through, and that gives me my slip stitch. Now I'm going to put half double crochets all along, and remember I said I want to do 2 into each one. So let's see what 2 would look like. You know what? Yeah, let's do 2. So there's 1. I'm going to put 2 right here along the edge. Now you'll notice I'm not really futzing around and trying to decide if I go into just a loop or anything. I'm really just going around essentially the post of that stitch, whatever I can get in there, whatever makes it look good. So there's 1. Let's do another one right there. The other thing you're going to notice is as I'm going along, I'm making sure that my float right there is getting tucked in. So I'm going to do one right there, and I'm going to do one right there. So now my float is getting tucked away, so it's getting hidden. So I'm back down here to the orange. I'm going to do one right there, and I'm going to do one right there. You know what, I'm going to undo that last one. I'm going to show you. The reason I undid it is when I put it in there, I got a big hole. So this one, it's really good. I could actually split that chain there because it's a turning chain, and I could work the stitch right there into the turning chain, and the butt of the stitch actually fills in my hole, so I don't get a big gaping hole. I'm going to put one right here, even though I have a hole there, and I'm going to put one over here. It's not really going to show. This one I'm going to go through some stitches too. and split them up. So if I wanted to make sure I was doing an exact number for each one, now I have 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, and I have my markers. So as long as I get 10 between these markers and between these markers and these markers, I will have the correct amount. So take a look at your pattern, do the number of half double crochets you need to complete around your band, and come back here. I'm going to show you how we're going to join to work in the round and begin the body of the hat. All right, so you have done your half double crochets along the edge of your brim, and this should be about what you have in front of you. What we need to do now is we need to join with a slip stitch to our beginning chain 2. So we're going to take the brim and fold it around like this. I do not want you to weave in your tails at this point, because here's a little tip. You can use your tails to weave these two edges together to close the brim, but we're not going to do that for a while. We're going to let it just hang out open for now. You can do it at the very end. I'm going to come over here. I'm going to put my hook into the chain 2 of the beginning. I'm going to do a slip stitch, and I'm going to turn. I'm going to chain 2 first before I turn, because I just like to do that. Chain 2 and turn. Now I want you to work through both loops, okay? You're going to do half double crochets all the way around the hat. So we're going to just zoom right on through this. I have a very awesome producer right here who's going to go ahead and speed up my hands, and so we're going to miraculously be right around to the join again, and I'll show you what to do right there. All right, so Brian has slowed down my hands, and I'm going to finish up my half double crochets. As I've been going around, you've probably noticed that I've accidentally turned my brim inside out, meaning it's kind of facing the wrong direction. It's just by the way I hold my hands. And I let that happen so that way if it happened to you guys, you wouldn't be worried. You'll see I just put it back where it was supposed to be, and I'm just continue on finishing my half double crochets, and I'm back to my beginning. Now, whatever the pattern says, I want you to join, whether it's in the turning chain or in the top of the half double crochet. So I'm gonna decide I'm gonna do it right up here in the top of the half double crochet. So I'm going to actually go into the stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, and pull through. And that's gonna finish my round. Now I'm gonna chain 2 and turn. Now you might be asking at this point, well, wait a second, why are we turning our work? We're still working in the round, but every time I turn my work, I'm getting a different look to the stitch as I'm working in the round. I'm going to pull over the hat. You can see here, I get this kind of cool ribbing looking effect. It's not real ribbing, but I get a cool definition and texture by doing turns in the hat pattern. And so I like to do turns. I did it for this hat pattern. I do not do it for all of my hat patterns, and all hat patterns are not written this way. There's many different ways to do hat patterns, but for this particular one, I do have you join to work in the round and then turn. So I'm going to stick this back out of the way. In the pattern, it says at this point that it's an increase round. So all that is going to do is it will say whether you're supposed to work across 2 half doubles or 3 half doubles, and then you're going to put 2 stitches into 1 stitch to create an increase. By doing this, you are making it so that the hat is not just this a beanie hat. You get kind of this big slouchiness to it. So we have our set number of stitches here. We're going to increase to a different rate of stitches, and then we'll work around 3 just normal with no increases. Then we'll go back and work around 4 with increases again. And what that does is it gives us this big kind of poofiness that is created with the sous chef. I think it's just a lot of fun. I like it. If you decide you want to do more rounds of increases, you can do that. It's up to you. So I've turned, and I'm just going to say, I'm going to work 2 half doubles, and then I'm going to work an increase. If you're working on the sous chef hat, please look at your pattern to find out how many half doubles you need to work before you do an increase. And an increase is this easy. Here's the next stitch. I go into the stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, finish my half double, and I do the same thing in the same exact stitch. So now I've worked only 3 stitches, but now I have 4 stitches on this row, so I've increased. So if I were increasing evenly around the pattern, I would work 2 stitches, and then I would work 2 extra stitches in the next one, right? So I'd put 2 into 1. And all of a sudden I'm going to have a bigger number of stitches. You'll do this all the way around the hat, and when the pattern says that it's time to change colors, you are going to change colors just as we've done before by pulling the color through on the last yarn over. Let's see here, 1, 2, 3. I'm trying to talk and make sure I count and do everything right at the same time. You're going to change colors just as you would any other of the color changes that we've already done, where you go in, pull up a loop, so you have 3 on here. You'd yarn over with your new color and pull through. Now I'm going to set this aside and I'm going to pull the original hat into play here, and I want to show you that you can still carry up your yarn on the inside of the hat like we did with our brim, because it does not get snagged on anything. As long as you don't pull and it doesn't pucker, you can carry up your yarn as you decide to change colors. Pretty easy, right? Just a little bit less to tuck in. You can carry it up. If you're not a fan of this, you can absolutely cut and rejoin and then weave in your ends later. That's perfectly fine. In the pattern it states when I decided to change colors for my rounds, but you can decide to change colors and bring in your Boutique Treasures yarn whenever you want. Once again, it gives you a completely different look. It looks like I have all sorts of different colors in here, but I don't. All I did, I just changed colors every 2, or not every 2 rounds, whenever it was that I was supposed to change colors. You're going to work your increases and then work the body of the hat for the specified number of inches that are stated in the pattern. Join me back here and I'll get you started on how to work the crown. And the crown is just the top of the hat here so that we can bring it all down and bring it together to finish it off, okay? All right, so you've completed the body of the hat. You've changed colors several times. I didn't change colors too many times in this example, this little short example for the project, but I did change it to the new colorway so we could mess around with that. And now it's time to work the crown of the hat. Now the crown of this hat, I decided I wanted to work rapid decreases. So rather than doing decreases really gradually as you would find in other hats, maybe either some other hat projects here in this channel, this one we're going to do some rapid decreases. And all that means is instead of going, half double, and then work 2 half double crochets together, we're going to work 2 half double crochets together all the way around. So this is how we're going to do that. We're going to chain 2, yarn over your hook, go into the first stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, and stop. Okay, so that's your partial half double crochet. Yarn over your hook, go into the next stitch over, yarn over your hook, pull up a loop, and stop. So we have 2 partial half double crochets. So what we've done here is we've made a stitch here that's not done yet and made a stitch here that's not done yet. Now we're going to yarn over our hook and draw through all of them to complete it and create 1 stitch. And so I'm going to take my marker and I'm going to put it in the top V of that 1 stitch because that's going to be the end of my round, okay? So let's do this again. I'm going to yarn over my hook, go on to the next stitch over, yarn over, pull up a loop, and stop. Yarn over my hook, next stitch over, yarn over, pull up a loop, and stop. I have 2 partials, yarn over, draw through all of them. We're going to do this all the way around the hat, and you will do this on your own hat as many times as it says in the pattern to do it. And let's see here, keep going. It goes really fast actually when you get kind of a rhythm going. I start singing a song in my head. I think there's a Gloria Estefan song about something about rhythm. All of a sudden it starts, the rhythm is gonna get ya. That's what it is. You don't want me to sing. I know. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Brian. All right, so once you go all the way around the hat, you will join up again with your slip stitch into the marked stitch, and then you will chain 2 and turn to work another round that's just normal, just a regular old round without increases or decreases. Oops, did I forget? Yeah, I forgot my half double back here, 2 together. Start talking. Start singing, I get in trouble. So you work all the way around with your half double crochet 2 togethers, and then you will join, chain 2, work, turn, work back with your basic half double crochets without doing any increases or decreases. And then you'll do another round of decreases. And what that's going to do is, I didn't do a half double there. That is going to pull all the stitches down until you have very few stitches. Maybe you'll have, 10 stitches or 8 stitches. In the pattern, it tells you exactly how many stitches you're going to have. And once you get down to that many stitches, let's set this aside. What you're going to do is you're going to cut a tail that is at least 10 inches long, 6 to 10 inches long. And what that's going to do is you're going to be able to cinch closed the top of the hat right there. If you go through the, let's see, if I remember correctly, it's the front loop. If you whip stitch through the front loop all the way around, I'll show you how you would do that. I'm going to go ahead and cut this yarn. Obviously, I would have far fewer stitches than this, but let's just play it for fun, okay? I am going to go ahead. I'm going to finish off this stitch. I'm just pulling my needle right through the stitch itself. And for grins, let's just say I wanted to cinch up this section right here, okay? It's circled around. I come here. If I grab the front loop all the way around, just like this, and pull my tail through, front loop all the way around, one more time. All right, can you see this so far? Pull that aside and pull it closed. You see how it looks like the top pucker of a hat? Look at that. Look how pretty that is. Once you have done that, what I like to do is I take my tail and I would usually weave it through one more time all the way around, kind of like this, just to pull it. Take the needle, go right through the center into the inside of the hat. So you have this nice finish at the top of the hat. Weave in your ends on the inside. And for this example, I'm going to flip it around. If I were weaving in the ends for this hat, I would take my yarn and I would split the yarn a little bit and go down and then back up. I'm just going willy-nilly. I do not want to just leave my yarn hanging out there because I don't want the top of my hat coming undone. Maybe I do it a couple times, making sure I'm not going through to the right side. I have my finger. You see my finger's right there? I'm feeling where my needle is. I want to make sure I don't ever feel the needle coming through on the opposite side. And I would just pull it snug, give it a snip, and that would be the inside of my hat. That would be the outside of my hat. Now, having done that, coming down here back to the brim that we have, I'm going to turn my hat inside out. And I have these 2 tails. I have one from where I ended and one from where I began. I can take my darning needle. Here's a little tip. If you want to learn how to put the yarn through your darning needle, if you take your darning needle and set it on the yarn, if you pinch it around your darning needle and out, you can wiggle it right on there and it pumps right on through. I think that's just the coolest thing. I am going to just join it over here to this side, so one side to the other, and just go back and forth. Let's see how this looks. Let's do this and see how it looks for you. What I'm doing, I'm just joining them, okay? So on the opposite side, it looks like that. This side, I'm just getting them all whipped together. It's going to have just a little tiny seam, not that much of a big deal. See how quickly this is done? I'm grabbing just the legs, just the outside leg of this one, outside leg of this one, and just pulling them together. Making sure when I come up here to the top, I have it all nice and cinched. Now my yarn started to come undone or get too short there, so it came out of my needle. But all I would do is put it back in, and I want to make sure I do weave in this end. So I'm going to just tuck it through the stitches there and pull it, not too tight. I don't want it to pucker up too much. And I'm going to come up underneath where I just came down, come up, and I would cut it. Now I have this one over here. If I wanted to, if my brim is really snug, I could go and just whip these together one more time just to make sure they don't come undone, or I could just weave in my ends, okay? So I'm just gonna whip it around here as if I was weaving in ends. See how easy this is? And it just, you guys, this is so easy. It does not take this long to weave in ends. It does not take that long to weave in ends. And if you do it this way, it makes it so that you don't have the ends flopping out on you and it won't come undone. It just looks so much better. So at this point, you would fold your hat up and you have your own little hat. You have a little hat going on. Isn't that cool? So here we are. You have your instructions for the Sous Chef. Hopefully you've been able to follow along with these projects and complete your own Sous Chef. Remember that gauge is not written in this pattern, but I do give you measurements of how far you need to work your increases and work your decreases for the rows. If you want to change up any of the number of the stitches, it is really not that difficult considering this is a slouchy hat. If you wanted to make it more slouchy, you would just do more increases. If you wanted to make it less slouchy, you would do less increases. So pay attention to the numbers that are in the pattern and you can absolutely fix this one to be exactly what you want it to be, either for your favorite charity or the favorite person in your life. I know that I love this hat and I'm gonna go home and take care of it now. What do you guys think? All right, catch you later. Bye.